Thanks so much. And it's such a pleasure to be here in this beautiful space that, yes, a whole community has created. But I'm personally very excited to come on May 29th to celebrate the home that Rabbi Mark Margolius is and the fabulous conversation partner that I'll look forward to speaking with at the end of our practice. I'm going to just begin for a moment with the chorus of an original song that I wrote a while ago. And then hopefully we'll tie it into our day in the Omer and our Parsha and our practice. No, there is no end, no end. There is no end to the way we try to control the wind. There is no end, no end, no end to the way we try to control the wind. We are, as Mark mentioned, on the 25th day of the Omer, right in the center. Netzach shebenetzach. So I would say efforting within efforting, endurance within endurance, persistence within persistence. And as Rabbi Sam talked about earlier in the week, one image for Netzach is the drop of water just hitting the rock. And if you look at it, nothing's happening. But it's only over the course of days, weeks, months, years that you see that drop of water, persistent, effortful, actually carves away into the rock. And I think this is such a beautiful image, not only for Netzach and persistence, but to tie it to what we do here, which is practice. And not practice once in a while. I mean, we might drop in once in a while, but this meeting, this community happens day by day by day over 5 years, right? The fact of showing up, of persistence, of coming to the place over and over and over, effort, endurance, commitment, effort. That is Netzach shebenetzach. And so we're already in it just by being here in practice together. Practice is Netzach shebenetzach. And I also want to intersect with where we are in the Parsha, in Achrei Mot Kedoshim, because so beautifully Rabbi Jenny Solomon led us to this beautiful truth that while we're in this same time of Passover and liberation to Revelation and Shavuot and the Omer, our Parsha wants to bring us to Yom Kippur, right? And so we start Achrei Mot with a Yom Kippur ritual. And as part of that, as part of what the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, needs to do on Yom Kippur, and only on that day, we see in Leviticus 16:6, and I'm going to say all of this, you don't need to see any sources, but there is a source sheet if you want to follow along that I believe will be posted. But in Leviticus 16:6, we find out that Aaron v'ikri v'haron et par hatat, the bull of sin offering, asher lo, that is his, v'chiper ba'ado, and he makes expiation for himself, uva'ad beito, and for his household. Okay, so that's nice to know. He actually has to bring an offering for himself and for his family. But something interesting happens with the rabbis, not terribly unexpectedly, though for this for me was quite the surprise. Often, conventionally, beito is understood to be not just your household, from bait in Hebrew, house, but beito often means his wife. And so there is an idea here that the priest, the high priest, to do their work and the ritual on Yom Kippur needs to have a wife. He must be married. So he has to be married before he goes in to this ritual. And the rabbis get worried about this. And they say, Rabbi Yehuda teaches, Af isha acheret matkinin lo. They actually prepare another wife just in case Aaron's wife dies on Yom Kippur. They have an on-deck wife ready to marry the high priest on Yom Kippur so that when he does his sacrifices, he'll be married. On one hand, we have to totally appreciate the rabbi's commitment and creativity. You know, you can see the event planner saying, we are ready for any eventuality. Nothing will go wrong. This is going to happen. And on the other hand, this is crazy, right? What is happening here, right? And they said to him, the other rabbi said to Rabbi Yehuda, Amrulo, im kain, ein ledavar sof. If we're going to actually do this, there's no end to this way of thinking. Are we going to have a second woman prepared in case the on-deck wife, something happens to her? Where is the end to this idea of effort and preparation and covering ourselves for every eventuality? And so as we're in this day of the effort of effort, I want to just note that there is a continuum of effort on one hand, and I want to say, like, on one side of the continuum, that gentle drop of water effort. And on the other end of that continuum is a very tightly held, controlling, trying to make everything the way it needs to be and to prepare for every eventuality with 7 backup plans, right? And we're, even in Netzach Shebenetzach, we're going to try to be with that drop of water effort. So I'm going to invite you into the posture you'd like to take for our practice, whether it's sitting, whether it's standing, whether it's lying down, whatever posture allows you to be present in this moment. And in this moment of presence, I invite you, just as a first step, to gently, with gentle effort, the effort of a water drop, to bring awareness to your body. And just notice what's happening in the body in this moment. What is the energy that you sense in your body? Is there a place where you feel your energy more or less? Do you feel the circulation of the energy? What is it like? Is it a fast beat thanks to your green tea or espresso? Is it a gentle flow, like the flow of that water? Are there places where the flow feels obstructed? Is it difficult to notice what's true in your body? Do you have resistance to even noticing? Everything is welcome that you notice. As we place our awareness on the body, if it works for you to notice the breath, feel free to notice what's happening with your breath. If the breath isn't a good place for you to place your awareness, Feel free to keep it anywhere in the body that does work for you. We'll take a moment just to notice the inhale and the exhale of the breath. And notice, is there effort in producing the breath? We know that the breath happens whether we consciously invite it or not. And yet, sometimes there is more effort in the breath coming in, perhaps through the nostrils, circulating through the back of the throat, down the throat into the chest. Perhaps that air is going all the way down into the belly, expanding the belly. Where is the effort? Is it the effort of control? Is it the effort of the drop of water, persistent and gentle? What happens with our effort? What happens if our effort, our water drop effort, is actually the effort of noticing, of paying attention? Such a soft and gentle effort of bringing awareness to our bodies and to our breath in the ever-turning moment, which requires us over and over, which invites us over and over into Netzach Shebenetzach, into the gentle effort of awareness, the gentle effort of noticing, so gentle it might be like the drop of water against a rock. We'll spend our practice inviting the gentle effort of observation into the present moment. Where are we? What can this effort bring if we allow it to keep us in the present moment? If we notice when we're away from the present in other thoughts or stories, to come back with gentle, loving, compassionate awareness. What happens when we bring our effort, gentle and loving, to each successive moment? We'll practice. And if you notice your attention wandering, it's an invitation to gently bring effort, bring awareness to noticing what's true in this moment. Gentle effort. And Aaron brings his offering, a bowl for his sins, all the might of bends, as she waits alone in her room. The not yet bride off stage from her not yet groom. No, there is no end, no end. There is no end to the ways we try to control the wind. There is no end, no end. There is no end to the way we try to control the wind. The balance of gentle effort and control. On your source sheet, there is a wonderful poem by Marge Piercy, which is a very Netzach Sheba kind of poem. But I will pass off to Mark for Kaddish, and you can look at the poem at your leisure.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Dorothy. Friends, let's close that beautiful practice today, using our Netzach energy to create a container of comfort and support for those of us who are in mourning, anyone who's observing a yard site at this time. If it's your custom to join in the Kaddish, you're welcome to do so. You can put the name or names of anyone you're specifically honoring today. You can put that in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. Thanks to Harry for sharing the words on your screen. And if you're joining me, please rise in body or in spirit. And you can unmute your device at this time. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Rabba,
Amen.
Yamad,
Vayechon v'yom echon
Vayedechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala,
Israel,
Shemei Rabba
Rabba
Barak
Mevarach,
Almei Almaya
Almei
V'yishtabach
Almaya,
V'yipa'al Tadar v'taleh v'yisrael shret Shalom Aleichem Shemayim V'yim Aleinu V'Chol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom B'amav Yaseh Shalom Yisrael
Shalom,
Shalom Bimama,
Shalom,
Oy Yitkadal, Oy Yitkadal,
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, we hope you'll join us tomorrow. We'll sit into Shabbat together with Yael Shai, our usual time. Looking forward to that and hope you can join us then. And of course, you're welcome to stay on, just continue to sit with that beautiful practice that Rabbi Dorothy turn on. Oops. Dorothy, you have to turn off your original music. I'm hearing you. Feedback. There we go. Okay. You're welcome to stay on just to continue to sit. You can use that beautiful practice from Rabbi Dorothy, or join us for conversation about the teaching. Thanks to Harry Gilboa for holding our space today. And if you have a question you'd like to ask Rabbi Dorothy, please put it in the chat. And if you can preface it by writing question, all in caps, that helps me keep an eye out for your questions and try to work them in. Well, first of all, Dorothy, you cracked me up. Okay.
That was my goal, Mark.
You really did. I was stifling at the rest of the set. It was just so great what you did with with that Mishnah, and so thank you for that. We all need that. And I just love also, how you take something like that, which, you could read as you were describing it, right? It's an effort by the rabbi to say, like, we can make this work, just like we have to figure it all out. And on the one hand, how admirable that is. And on the other hand, how futile it is. And your song kind of captures that too, of trying to use effort to like control the wind. On the other hand, we in fact are trying to control the wind, right? And generate power. And yet you can have to kind of laugh at that in a way. And I love, we came up earlier this week about paradoxes, love paradoxes. So that's fantastic paradox. I also love the imagery of, that you brought back of, Sam's drip, drip, drip. Some also earlier this week came up in terms of the Colorado River carving the Grand Canyon over, over eons. Like you see that, that gentle, I mean, in perspective, this gentle Netzach carving that. So I wanted to invite you to talk a little bit about that in terms of the nitty-gritty of meditation practice, what we're actually doing while we're sitting in silence, right? And what if we have a Netzach dial of effort, right? Like how we would notice when, I got to dial it up or I got to dial it down, and how that gets reflected in what we're actually doing. So it's actually a practice in modulating or titrating or finding moment by moment the right setting, I guess, on the Netzach dial. And again, for people who might maybe new to this, maybe a little quick primer on Netzach, what that is. You said it at the outset, but maybe we bears repeating.
Exactly. The whole idea of paradox is so crucial to the Omer period as we are observing it with these different qualities because they come in triads, right? It's part of a larger system,
Mm-hmm.
and it's part of this system of like one part of the continuum, the other part of the continuum, and the harmonizing of them. And so we just came from Tiferet, right, which was the harmonizing of loving kindness, chesed, and deen, and of boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's almost hard to leave Tiferet because we like the harmonizing part, but we are into the efforting part of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
soon we'll be in, so Netzach is effort, endurance, persistence. I like to think of Netzach as like, I can do something. Like, I have power, right? For me, the world was created. And then next week, we're going to be in Hod, which is submission, which is just be, stop doing so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be with it. And neither one is right or wrong, right? It's just that we balance them, right? Uh, at our best, right? At our best. And so that's why for me, since I think in our culture we tend more to the doing energy, I like to think in practice of that doing. It is doing, but it's gentle and it's compassionate. And so what really came through to me, and it was really in preparing this that I really kind of understood it. Some people think that meditation, when it's successful, is actually the absence of any effort at all. You're in this state of Zen, you're in this state where like nothing's happening. It's just all a white room with white clouds and nothingness. And
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of different ways to meditate and lots of different moments of it. But as a practice, there is effort all the time. The effort is to stay in the moment. The effort is to notice. But the trick of that effort is not to make it a gold star. Did I win? Did I
Mm-hmm.
do great? Right? How do I judge myself? Right? The And it's not also like, I'm gonna make sure that nothing gets through my
Mm-hmm.
concentration. I'm so tightly wound that nothing is going to distract me. Even this distraction of trying to prevent distraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so the effort, gosh, that felt horrible just even to be in that mode, right? So the challenge is how to hold in practice
Mm-hmm.
that very persistent, true effort that is gentle and loving and allowing us to be in this moment as it continues to overturn into a new moment.
That's so beautiful. As I was listening to you, I was thinking about all these different other metaphors for this because the basic practice, of course, is setting the intention to be present, knowing we're going to drift off, and then returning, practicing teshuvah, come back to that intention, and the effort that's involved in not straying, and the effort that's involved in returning. I was thinking about driving, actually. I was thinking about driving on a windy road, right? And if we were in that super effort, you would like jerk the wheel around, right? And you'd go too much the other way, right? So you need that kind of easeful, and also, no one stays exactly in the lane. We come close, we aim for that, but you have to have that. So I was thinking about this because I'm thinking about teaching adolescents to drive, and about how my own driver's ed teacher taught me to kind of keep my hand soft on the wheel a little bit, not grip it, you know, that has stayed with me for these many years.
I think that's a perfect image. And the only thing I want to add to it is that also with the very recent memory and some anticipatory feelings about having to do it again, getting to do it again soon, is that jerkiness of the new driver, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
What helps? Time and practice.
Yeah.
Time and practice, right? And when you start to get a sense, and these 5 years, right? The first times when we might have joined this community, we might have felt like, what's going on? It's on Zoom. Can I do this? And for many of us, who've been here over the years, it's like, oh, I know exactly where I am. I don't know who's going to be there this morning, but this is where I'm at, and I can relax into it because I know this, I know how to drive here, right? And I know when I can let go and let someone else drive.
So I just want to click through some of these questions in the chat. There was a question, I think from Laura, about seeing ourselves as the wind. That was interesting. I don't know if you want to respond to that. That's an interesting question. Did you
I
see
think,
it?
I think the wind came to me, honestly, um, because I was trying to rhyme it with end, which is not a
Mhm.
perfect rhyme, I realize, but
Mhm.
then I really liked it because wind is also ruach, right? Which is a name for the soul, and yet it's also a name for God, ruach Elohim.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just everything, right? Sometimes we try so hard to control ourselves in ways that actually don't help us. And I think, just in my own experience of trying to control events or people to be the way that I want them to be, of course, effort and goals and action are important, crucially so. But holding them kind of like the wind,
Mhm.
holding them in a way that they move through me instead of I'm trying to, like nothing else is acceptable, right? It's
Right.
more like a weather, it's like I would like things to go this way, but they may or they may not. And then I'll have the next thing to do.
Right. It's making me think of the serenity prayer about, right, about being cognizant of what we can control, what we can't control, and using that effort towards what we can control and not wasting the effort on what we can't control. This come up in the chat because as it should and always does, question about like in the times in which we're living, um, where there is such a call for a need for action, right? And how to harness that without burning ourselves out, without feeling overwhelmed, without expending that our energy, and how to do that in a sustainable way. Think about the advocates for the hostages, for example, like you know Rachel Goldberg, like showing up, continuing to show up through the worst, and doing that in a sustainable way. I'm thinking about this community and any like similar community where that wind, you're talking about the wind, thinking about the breath and the neshima, and its relationship with the neshama and the renewal of that, and that when we are feeling, too much overwhelmed, too much energy, too much paralysis, um, we have that signal to just pause for that, to microdose Shabbat, as I like to say. Um, and that gives us what we need, especially in a context where, like you said, like we live in a time, in a society, in an economy that only prizes action and does not prize a siesta, you know, or, going home at the end of the day and forgetting about work till the next day anymore. It doesn't exist, seemingly. So we have this. I do want to mention, people will say, what's the name of the song? So the song, there's a link to the song in the source sheet. Harry, maybe you can share the source sheet again. And Dorothy, I assume this is from your cycle. People may not know, among Rabbi Dorothy's many talents is that she's a songwriter, that was her song, and did a whole year of writing an original song for every Torah portion. Are those all on YouTube, by the way?
Yeah.
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 Wow. Kol hakavod. It's really like I still can't. It blows me away. And especially especially this one, built on that Mishnah and the on deck wife, which kind of stands in for just like preparing for any contingency, being prepared for any contingency. And that's we need that. We need to be prepared for every contingency. And you can also sort of make yourself crazy, as you pointed out.
Yeah, I think the point is well taken about the breath and the Shabbat, right? And finding our ways of rest within our effort. But just to continue with the metaphor of the wind,
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, for me, practice has really become, and I'll say this in a very brief way, but it's actually a very, very important, larger idea for me that practice in a lot of ways is about letting the divine in, right? And the divine we know came into us through breath, right? Through our soul, which is nishima, nishama. And so imagining our practice is actually, okay, I've done everything that I can do in the world. Now I'm just going to take this brief period of time where I'm not in charge. And I'm going to let the divine flood me. It already is, but I'm going to bring my awareness to the fact that the divine is flooding into me. And I'm going to just try to let it be. And if there's anything I should know or take from it, I'm just going to try to pay attention to that. And on one hand, that same ruach is the breath, right? And it is the most vivifying thing we have. It keeps us alive. It's not a metaphor, it's true, right?
Right.
And at the same time, if you look at the same, you know, wind, it can be a tornado, it can be a tsunami, right? And so there are really different moments and ways that we interact with it, and different things are appropriate in different times, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think part of practice is just about being able to prepare ourselves when we're not in the middle of the storm, so that even when we're in the storm, shelter, right? In the storm, even in the storm, we can know we're in the storm now, right? For whatever it does. And then, as importantly, when we're actually not in the full storm in this moment, we can actually, if it's wise for us, take the Shabbat, take the breath, take the moment so we'll be better, more effective.
Amen. Amen. Selah. All right, Dorothy, thank you so much once again for offering all these beautiful gifts for this community. And thanks to Harry for holding our space. Thanks to each of you for your netzach, your right netzach, might say, your uh, you're helping to create this container for easeful, effective netzach in the world. May it flow out for blessing. And we hope to see everyone tomorrow to sit into Shabbat and our little mini week of Netzach practice with Yael Shai tomorrow. So Shabbat Shalom to you, Dorothy. And
Shabbat
thanks
shalom
again.
to all.
Okay, blessings, everyone. See you soon.